Guys, something definitely does not feel right. Russians are bringing new reinforcements, and approximately 420,000 of them are up to something unpredictable. But to make things just a little bit better, a key city in this has just been liberated, and there is a big panic in Moscow. But more about all this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And first, just a couple of words about YouTube. As you know, in the past, a lot of my videos were getting demonetized for as little as just showing the debris of a plane, graffiti of a gun, or even smoke coming out of the windows. And well, my previous video got demonetized again. But this time for even more ridiculous reason. And so guys, my question to you is, why the Russian dude video got demonetized? Answer A, it is because soldiers were showing guns. B, it is because soldiers were showing bullets. C, because soldiers were sitting in a trench. Or D, soldiers were drinking vodka. Take your time, think about the answer, think about what kinda make sense. Because the correct answer is C, because I was showing soldiers sitting in a trench. And according to YouTube, I showed an extremely violent and explicit content which is only suitable to mature audiences. So I just want to make a quick test for you guys. If you are a mature audience and this type of content does not shock you, can you please like this video and subscribe to my channel? But once again, this is only for mature audience. But jokes aside, unfortunately, I will have to continue censoring my content even more, at least for as long as this YouTube employee who is sitting and flagging every single one of my videos for being cruel. And then hopefully he gets tired of doing this. But guys, I promise you, I will keep producing the highest quality content possible. This stays the same. And for my Patreons, I decided to upload fully uncensored episodes. Like no censorship, no blurring, no pixelation, nothing like this. So if you want to support the channel and see these fully uncensored episodes, you are more than welcome to join my Patreon, the link is down below. Thank you so much guys for your continuous support in this battle against YouTube, and now let's get back to the video. But okay, now let's talk about literally Putin's new best friend, then we'll talk about panic in Moscow, and then just quick updates from the east and south of Ukraine. And first of all, as you can see from this video, the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, recently arrived to Russia to talk with Putin and government representatives about the potentially supplying weapons from North Korea to Russia. And I mean, judging by these most recent videos, whenever Russians started to use T-55 tanks, which were produced in 1950s, it does look like that Putin might be a little bit overdue in this question. I mean, it is definitely not a good thing that Russia will be receiving new weapons and military vehicles from another country, but just that this country happened to be North Korea, this is a little bit ironic. And speaking about Putin, today he also gave a press conference in the Eastern Economic Forum where he made outrageously ridiculous statements. And here, just a few of them. First of all is that Russia is always ready for peace talks. It is that Ukraine which legally prohibited them. Yes, legally. The second statement is that the Ukrainian counteroffensive is a joke, and since the beginning of it, Ukraine already lost 71,000 soldiers, and pay attention here, 18,000 of military vehicles. And ultimately Putin said is that how Russia can stop the combat activities if now Ukrainians are defending themselves. Alright, he did not say defending, he said counterattacking, but he justified Russian aggression by saying that Ukraine is basically trying to protect itself. But what he did not talk about is that Russia wasted hundreds of missiles and drones destroying fake and decoy targets produced by Ukrainians out of, for example, metal and simple wood. And in the meantime, Ukrainians themselves, they try to advance in their military industries, such as for example the company called Kosmolot. They produce 15 brand new Ukrainian drones which are allegedly resistant to Russian electronic warfare systems. Which, long story short, means that it will be much more complicated for Russians to intercept them and to even find them. which will be obviously a total nightmare for Moscow in case Ukraine decides to attack it once again, but we will talk about panic in Moscow very soon. But for now, back to the military support to Ukraine. So, German company Rheinmetall provided its 32 spaces military hospital worth of 9 million euros, which will be equipped with one of the most modern hospital equipment, which will allow Ukrainian surgeons to perform surgeries right on the battlefields. And then we have a country of Denmark, which will pledge another 800 million euros military support package to Ukraine. Right, and now just a couple of quick words about literal panic in Moscow, and then we'll talk about quick updates from the east and south of Ukraine. And so yes, according to the most recent British intelligence report, Russians are bringing even more air defense systems, trying to surround Moscow and protect the capital of Russia, mainly the places where Putin is most oftenly seen. And just like in the past, Russians are mainly placing these air defense systems on the roofs of high buildings, which you remember in the past was not very effective, because Ukrainian drones were flying below this altitude, which making it impossible for the air defense systems to intercept them. And well, apparently it still confirms to be extremely ineffective, because this last night there was some more loud noises heard in Moscow. But now let's just imagine if Ukrainians they switch to more advanced drones, such as the ones we talked a couple of minutes ago, or even the drones made out of wood, which are extremely hard to be detected by radars. What will Moscow authorities do in that case? They are most certainly already panicking, and it shows by them surrounding themselves with extremely ineffective air defense systems. So now let's see what will happen. And so yes, now as promised, let's go to the east of Ukraine for a very quick update. And first of all, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, there are still daily combat activities between Russians and Ukrainians along Kupiansk-Svatovo-Kreminna front line. Then we have a claim by Ukrainians who mention that they were able to destroy a large mortar firing position of Russians to the north of Kovalivka. And then, as we move down to Solidar, Ukrainians were able to literally obliterate Russian positions using extremely heavy weapons. Then, as we move along eastern front lines, the Azov soldiers of 12th Brigade were able to destroy 4 Russian armored personnel carriers BMPs. Even more to the south, there is another significant city called Klishchiivka, and apparently it looks like that Ukrainians finally and fully and officially liberated it by providing us this video, which shows us that Ukrainians are pretty easily walking somewhere very close to the city center, but surprisingly, they are still able to see Wagner flag. Later this flag was obviously removed. As we get closer to Bakhmut, and as you can see from this map, Russians unfortunately were able to recapture some land to the south of Berkhivka. But speaking once again about Klishchiivka, as you can see from this map, Ukrainians were able to establish a little bit more control around this city. To the east of this settlement is located Svitlodarsk, and Ukrainians reportedly were able to destroy a pretty big concentration of Russian forces to the south of this city. And then something truly interesting and even fascinating happened in Donetsk. So Russian infiltrator and Z correspondent Evgeny Dubovy, he was basically friendly fired by one of another Russian officers. He was driving a car and he did not notice quote-unquote Evgeny Dubov and eliminated him. And speaking about one of the most important cities of the last couple of days, Opytne, as you can see from this map, Russians were able to recapture back some meters of this land. And ultimately, unfortunately, there is another major city in the east, Marinka, but as you can see from this video, as a result of pretty much daily battles for many years, Russians did not leave any stone on stone standing in this city, so the city right now is pretty much completely in ruins. This once again does not look like liberation to me. Well, so yes, now please allow me to give you the quickest possible update from the south, and then we'll talk about these extremely suspicious plans by Russians. And first of all, we have to make a stop in Sevastopol, temporarily occupied by Russians, where locals once again reported some very loud noises. as a result of something spontaneously self-igniting, as it usually happens with Russians. Then we refer once again to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, which claims that the main combat activities were happening in between Donetsk and Zaporozhye regions, and also in the western Zaporozhye region. And without a doubt, Ukrainians slowly but surely they do advance on Zaporozhye front lines, such as for example next to Robotyne. And well, Russians, they're using this temporarily stutter by Ukrainians, and they started very quickly erecting new lines of defenses, as you can see from these satellite images, which will contain many new layers of trenches. And most importantly, it looks like that this time Russians are seriously up to something potentially unpredictable. According to the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, there are at least 420,000 Russians concentrated across Ukraine. And this is not taking into consideration Rosgvardia, which is basically the Russian National Guard, or those mobilized Ukrainians who were forced to fight on the Russian side. In addition to that, it is estimated that there are more than 2,200 Russian tanks, more than 5,200 armored personnel carriers, more than 3,000 artillery systems, and hundreds of other military equipment scattered across Ukraine. And as you can see, Russians at this very moment, they are not trying to attack anywhere else. They are trying their best to hold their current existing positions. And even the number of drone and missile attacks is not what it used to be in the past. Even Natalia Gumenyuk mentions that most likely Russians are stockpiling missiles and drones to once again destroy the energy infrastructure of Ukraine in the upcoming winter. Because, I mean, let's be honest, every war is pretty cyclical. At first it is one side attacking, another is defending, then they switch sides, then they switch back, switch again, switch back, switch again. And so right now it is Ukrainian counteroffensive, so logically the next ones will be Russians to attack. The question is, will they be able to achieve any kind of success? Even the representative of the Russian government, Andrei Kartapolov, who used to make very ridiculous statements in the past, which always eventually came true, now he mentions that approximately 200,000 Russian soldiers are in the process of rotating for a fresher new conscripts. It basically means that yes, on the one hand, Russians will have this fresh new force, but on the other hand, this force will not be combat ready, combat trained, or any kind of military experience. Most likely this will be just 18 to 20-year-old guys. And honestly, there is not too many actual Russian soldiers left who can share their battle experience with them, because either they are eliminated or they were not attacking Ukrainians for the last several months. So they also do not have the offensive experience. But it is certain, it does feel like a calm before the storm. Russians are accumulating forces, power, ammunition, weapons, and everything they can, potentially for one final attack. And in this perspective, the visit of a leader of North Korea, Kim Chen-in, sounds now even more suspicious. But if you remember in the past, every single offensive of Russians, except the initial one in February of 2022, basically yielded absolutely no significant results. And at that time, Russia obviously had way more prepared forces and way more military equipment. And so right now, I honestly also do not believe that they will be able to achieve anything significant, but we cannot ignore the fact that they're up to something very suspicious and potentially very unpredictable, because you can still never underestimate your enemy. So let's see how the events will unfold in the next several weeks. I will always be here to make these reports, so if you don't want to miss them, just please consider subscribing to my channel. It only takes one click. Thank you so much to my patrons, and see you tomorrow.